Girl, you won't believe this. Diddy got no drug case, no gun case, and still he gets to choose what prison he want to go to. Like, how crazy is that? They only gave him 4 years and he's still getting treated like a king, even the president thinking about letting him off. And honestly, this whole thing is just getting messier by the day.
So that's always a great day for the family. Overall, though, it's not surprising. You know, we do all know one thing, like I said before, Puffy has strong ties with the government, with the feds, and anybody else would have been cooked, done. I mean, that's the first time in history that a person going to get sentenced and they can actually put on a campaign like they running for the president of the United States, where they can show videos and pretty much everything. Only thing I was waiting on was the fact that I was waiting on him to bring out the DJ and start playing music and let him do what he do best, dance and shake that ass and ain't there with no time. And the other side of it is that, well, the sad side of it is that I couldn't believe that not one of his baby mothers came in to support him or testify. And I was surprised by that because that shows a lot about.
So when they caught Diddy, he was chilling at some fancy hotel in New York. And when cops searched his room, they found all kinds of crazy stuff like drugs, fake medicine, guns with no serial numbers, and even that weird baby oil everyone talks about. But somehow he didn't get any drug or gun case. Like, what? That's wild. The prosecutors had videos too, but they didn't even show them in court, and still Diddy just walked out like nothing happened.
What they call relevant conduct that you do in that stuff. And Diddy did a lot of shit. He beat people, he drugged people. The judge even said this. You understand? The judge spoke about coercion. And no matter what the what you call them people, the jurors, you know, said and thought and everything like that. The judge spoke about his coercion, his relevant conduct. The judge spoke about, you know, mitigating circumstances. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shit the judge spoke about. You know, look at here. He got caught with drugs. Never got charged with the drugs, and the judge knew that. That's why the judge said relevant conduct. You understand? He got caught with guns. Guns in the house with the serial number. The judge knew that. You understand? Relevant conduct. You understand? That he didn't get charged with. The beating of Jane, hitting in the head. The assault and all that stuff of Cassie. All those things, they probably couldn't. I don't guess they could have charged him with them, but they came up in the trial. All that's relevant conduct. You understand? And people don't understand all the things that he was doing. Then the judge made a point. When you go and talk to the managers and you talk to people about hiding evidence. You understand? Remember the fact in the trial when it came up that he gave a guy $100,000 and some $100,000 to keep the tape that from cashing them? That's relevant conduct. Your judge was speaking about all.
From the start, it seemed like Diddy was gonna get a long time in jail, but somehow everything turned out his way. The judge talked big about punishment, and they had proof and even said he tried to scare the victims. But he still got off easy. The Wild Party tapes never showed up in court, and in the end, everything went just how Diddy wanted.
We got a lot of them in jail doing way more time than him. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be all right, man. I think that, you know, he got off like a fat rat in the cheese factory, bro. You know what I'm saying? He got off based on how the judge started the whole sentence. He was talking about coercion. He was talking about relevant conduct. He was talking about, he even said that with Diddy conduct and what he was doing, he should get a sizable sentence or something like that. You know, like his sentences should be a large sentence. And I think that, 50 months, I don't see that as being large. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a third. I think the third of the guidelines were the probation report said. I think the probation report started at 72 months.
Now, the next big move for Diddy might be getting a full pardon or even having his whole case dropped. And the crazy part is, it could really happen just 3 days after he got sentenced. Word came out that his team already talked to Donald Trump asking for that pardon, like they wasting no time at all.
3 days after Diddy was sentenced to over 4 years in prison on prostitution charges, President Donald Trump seems to confirm he's heard from the mogul's legal team. The comments coming Monday from the Oval Office as reporters asked about a pardon for Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving 20 years for child sex trafficking.
I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it, so but I will speak to the DOJ. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon. I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up for him.
Trump and Diddy's ties go all the way back to the late 90s. Diddy was reportedly a guest at the president's 2005 wedding, and they ran in the same social circles.
One mogul after another. It's mogul time.
It's your boy Diddy.
ET's cameras caught them together at this New York charity event in 2008.
When a senior White House official declined to comment on, quote, speculation and told us any decision on pardons would come from the president himself. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said he has not talked to the Trump administration about it. You mean to tell me that you really have nothing to do with a possible pardon right now?
Nothing. I have nothing to do with a possible pardon.
What is Sean Combs saying about the possibility of the pardon?
I think he knows I'm not political. We've never discussed it other than I tell him what's in the news about it. But
And what's his reaction? Does he laugh? Does he say, let's look into it? What does he say?
Go tell him that I need a pardon. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. That's what he said.
How are you preparing him?
So I tell him what the guidelines are, and the guidelines are about 2 or 3 years. And I tell him, the judge could go above the guidelines.
Do you have any regrets in how you tried this case?
It's a good question. Not really.
You called the relationship between Combs and Ventura a great modern love story. Ventura says she was raped, physically abused, and became addicted to drugs because of Combs.
I think that's what makes it. We vehemently deny, and I know I respect that she said that. I don't think the jury concluded that happened. In terms of the drugs and the other stuff, I think that's what makes it a modern love story. I think she very much loved him, and I know he very much loved her.
Cassie Ventura's attorney told us that Agnifilo's description of the relationship is a, quote, complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence. Now, we covered a lot more in this interview. Agnifilo said that he talks to his client just about every single day. He told us that Combs is focused on his family and wants to one day get back into performing at Madison Square Garden. This interview was about an hour long. He also told us that Combs did want to testify. Obviously,
Diddy already knew he was walking free. And if that sounds crazy, his own lawyers proved it. The prosecutor said he even booked hotel rooms in Miami a whole week after his sentencing. Like he was so sure he'd be out that he already started planning his little vacation before the judge even said go.
My heart goes out and it says, come and feed them beans. I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about him being in pain. I can care less about what he has to be faced with in court or in jail now. I don't have no remorseful feelings for him, bro. You understand? This is somebody that at one time I would have giving my own life for. And to know this nigga was trying to get people to take my life because I was trying to teach them to be right by people and tell them to be right by people. I have no remorse for this dude, bro. To see him like that, I know there is a God. And you can feel all the way you want to feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But karma is a mother. And if it ever gets back to you when you have done somebody wrong, not just me, I'm not saying me, I'm saying when you have done people wrong, you have done loads of people wrong, to see him on his knees begging like that, I would say something, but the LGBT community would be after.
When you look at his family after the verdict, they didn't even seem worried the judge said 20 years. But they acted like they already knew Diddy was getting out.
The defense, meanwhile, argued that women were willing participants in fulfilling Combs' sexual desires, and that all the encounters we heard about in this trial were consensual. And there you see, after the verdict, Diddy's family celebrating on the streets in New York City, doing push-ups on the sidewalk while others danced. They said a few words exclusively to ABC News, and the attorney for Cassie Ventura also spoke out about this verdict.
Everybody watching, so happy. Pop's coming home. God bless. God bless.
So here's the real reason behind all this. It's pretty clear Diddy had some kind of deal with the prosecutors, because the feds don't just let people walk free like that. If he's getting all this special treatment, it means he helped them out. Even Michael Franzese, the ex-mob guy, said he's sure some people in this case got immunity, which means Diddy definitely made some kind of trade to save himself.
They didn't beat up and girls all the time. Do you see a big difference here with the kind of behavior Diddy's accused of doing compared to the behavior of mobsters?
Oh, absolutely. And let me say this. I always take the position, someone's innocent until proven guilty. That's just my position all the time. However, we have seen certain things. I think everybody has seen the hotel video where he was obviously beating her up. And the testimony has been absolutely despicable. And nobody in my former life would ever approve of something like that. And I think Anthony will vouch for that. We didn't beat up women. We didn't do things like that. We were taught to respect women in a big way, especially our families. So, in our life, if you violated another made man's wife, daughter, sister, mother, you're in a lot of trouble. So we didn't stand for that in any way, shape, or form. And like I said, the acts that are being described here are disgusting, despicable. If somebody like that was in our former life, he wouldn't last. Quite honestly. And again, I would love to hear, I believe that the defense is going to attack the RICO statute here. You said, possibly there are witnesses that have been given immunity. Not possibly, 100%. I mean, that's how government builds cases. They go after people, they get them to cooperate, and give them immunity. So like Anthony said, there's probably several unindicted co-conspirators here that all decided, hey, we're not going to take the fall, we're going to cooperate. We're going to testify, and that's why they weren't indicted. So I would believe it when Anthony said that, they're going to use the theory that you said, that the whole, Bad Boy Records was a criminal enterprise. He was at the top of it. He used these other people to implement his criminal schemes, and that's how they charged him with RICO. But these acts are just, the real question is, how did this go on for 20 years? 20 years this was going on. A guy as high profile as that, and I've said this before, and nobody gets charged for it. It's allowed to continue for 20 years. There's no question that people knew that this was going on. There were high profile people involved. How does something like this go on for...
You can totally tell something shady is going on. The judge said no to Diddy's request to move to Fort Dix prison, but somehow he still ended up going there. They just didn't say it directly. Like, they tried to keep it quiet, but it's so clear what's really happening.
He will not be going to Fort Dix. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Why? Well, we don't. Well, it's just the judge is basically saying, like, I will allow you guys to have a conversation about, like, geographically where he should be, but prison-wise, like, I'm not going to let you guys choose. I'm sorry. Yeah, prison-wise, I'm not going to let you guys choose the prison. But the judge does agree that Diddy should be close to home. So he put in a response to Diddy's request, and he says that Diddy should do those 4 years and 2 months at a federal prison as close to New York as possible. And he says that, you know, even though they don't say a specific prison, that Diddy should be somewhere that has a very strong substance abuse program, including the Bureau of Prisons Residential Drug Abuse Program. It's called RDAP, for which he qualifies.
How do you pick your prison anyway? Is there like a brochure? Like it ain't. I'm still.
See, this is where it all starts to make sense. Diddy going to Fort Dix wasn't random at all. That prison has a special RD8 program where inmates do drug rehab for 9 months and can get out a year early. And right after the judge gave his reply, Diddy magically got approved to join that program while serving his time like he knew exactly what he was doing from the start.
With breaking news, and it involves Sean Diddy Combs. His attorney is now requesting that the former or current rap mogul be placed at Fort Dix in New Jersey as a place to serve his prison sentence because of its drug treatment program. His lawyers, in a letter to a judge, said that they want to address his drug abuse issues and maximize family visitation and rehabilitative efforts. They request that the court strongly recommend the Bureau of Prisons that Mr. Combs be placed at that Jersey facility. They're also asking Combs to be placed in the Bureau's most intensive treatment program. Fort Dix is a low-security prison with about 4,000 inmates. It is ultimately, though, up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide where Combs will ultimately serve.
Looks like Diddy's team isn't done yet. They're probably gonna appeal his sentence. And if that works, he could get even less time, maybe even walk out on just parole when it's all over. Like, this man might actually beat the whole thing.
Out of New York City, we are hearing Diddy's attorneys speaking to the media after he was sentenced earlier today. This is live.
So yeah, we are planning to appeal. I'm gonna get in, bro. We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion, and I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean, and so we are planning to appeal.
Absolutely. Filed a cross appeal. What would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as students.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing.
Consensual. But you clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual. What did you make of his remarks?
He's biased.
I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
Well, at least the judge was open-minded.
So turns out Diddy sold everyone out just to save himself, and that's how he got this short sentence. Now the FBI is coming for his right hand, Christina Coram, because Cassie said in court that Christina was the one running it all, from his schedule to even knowing what mood he was in. Cassie said she talked to her a lot and that Christina knew all her personal stuff too.
Diddy's ex-chief of staff, Christina Coram, could be facing charges as a co-conspirator. And this is coming straight from the judge's mouth, and she is not the only one that the judge is saying are criminally responsible of the same crimes that Diddy was convicted of. I got my hands on the official transcripts from Diddy's sentencing hearing where the judge names people that he is saying are criminally responsible responsible for doing these crimes with Diddy. At this point, they are not criminally charged, but it does mean there is a possibility that charges could be brought against these people that he names. In part of Diddy's sentencing hearing, they were going over all of the enhancements that would make Diddy ultimately serve a longer sentence. One of these enhancements that Diddy was fighting over was that he was like an organizer or a leader of these groups of people to carry out the transportation to engage in prosta. Now, Diddy's argument for this enhancement that he was a leader or an organizer over other people to get away with this criminal conduct was this was already acquitted charges that he got found not guilty for, so he didn't feel like it should be able to be used. But the judge shot back and said the enhancement applies and the objection is overruled. The judge went on to say that the court finds by a preponderance of evidence that the offense also involved Combs and at least 3 criminally other responsible participants: Christina Korm, Garen James, and Bridget Collins, and that it used services of numerous outsiders that were particular and necessary to this offense, including Fahim Muhammad and Combs' various assistants. The judge said that Christina Korm is criminally responsible with Diddy for transportation to engage in prosta. Also says that Garen James is criminally responsible, and this is the man that owns the website Cowboys for Angels, where these male workers were coming from. Another reason why you might have heard of Cowboys for Angels or Garen James is because they had the TV show on Showtime, Gigolos. Judge then goes on to name Bridget Collins, and Bridget Collins was somebody that worked for Cowboys for Angels, who was referenced throughout the trial of Diddy texting when he was upset that one of the workers couldn't perform, so he didn't.
Honestly, with all the stuff Diddy has done, he should be in a medium security spot, not some easy low security place. Those are for low risk inmates, and Diddy is far from that. He was breaking rules at the MDC and even got into fights there. If this was any normal case, he would never get that kind of soft treatment, but somehow he still ended up getting exactly what he wanted.
Oh, he's got to get ready. He'll spend a couple of weeks there until they designate him to a new facility, and he'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. At least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that. My thought is he'll collect himself, get himself together. There are ways for him to improve himself. They have the Bureau of Prisons now has a drug program, and if you're allowed to get into that drug program, you can knock as much as 18 months off your sentence. Now, I don't know if he'll qualify, if they'll allow him to go in, but he'll probably start to think about, okay, what can I do to reduce my time now? That's what everybody thinks when you get in there. Is there any way we can better ourselves? He's thinking about what facility they're going to send him to. I'm sure he spoke to his lawyers and he asked his lawyers to put in a facility that's close to his home, close to his family, a low or medium level. I don't think he'll get into a camp.
Can you though? Does your request actually count? I mean, I thought the feds just put you where it works for them. I didn't think you get a say in it.
Well, here's the thing. You could ask the judge to recommend. The Bureau of Prisons doesn't have to go along with the judge's recommendation, but it does help a little bit. They do try to sometimes satisfy the judge's request. You can put in a request, and sometimes they'll honor it, sometimes they won't. It's real.
Is he safe, though? And you say something about him getting stabbed?
I was going to say, Diddy's team is saying no, he's not going to be safe, because in court, we found out that there was an attempt on Diddy's life, that there was a man that attempted to shank him, but they stopped it, the correctional officers. And they say Diddy didn't even want people to know that he didn't want to make it a big deal. But of course, they're having that conversation about will he be safe because of who he is and how high profile this case is. Right. They're also having a conversation. Mark Geragos is a high profile attorney, a friend of Diddy's, but also the dad of Teeny Geragos, who led Diddy's defense about Diddy potentially being in court. And we can and just attacks on his life, because they say that people look at him as like a trophy or a prize, and to do something to him.
Well, what if other inmates hear all of the stuff that we've been hearing in the news all of these weeks, and they scared of Diddy?
That's not how they presented it. I don't.
That's crazy to say Diddy's a trophy. Like, he's looked at as a trophy in jail.
Everybody in the industry been telling Cassie to run from Diddy and Freddie. P even said she should leave the country before things get bad. He claimed Diddy's crew is already planning something, and Cassie's the main one they want. He said if Diddy can't reach her, he'll go after the people close to her, so it's starting to look real scary for her right now.
And now Cassie, let's go ahead and move out the country, baby.
Pack a little white guy up, get on out of here. Go protect your family. Cause if you think Sean and he done beat it, and you got 30 out of him, at the least, me personally, at the least, I would get your boyfriend beat up every time somebody see him. Like, I wouldn't have to be there. So I'm telling you, if I would do that, I don't know, you know Sean better than me. Cassie.
So you believe that Diddy, he'll try to harm Cassie if he get out?
I think so. I'm not Sean off. Man, it's hard because I don't know what Sean's getting out. I don't know what Sean is getting out of prison. I don't know if Sean is reformed. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if Sean gonna get out more arrogant now that you just beat the feds. You see his kids dancing around. They don't look grateful. They look like, yeah, we gonna keep winning. That's not the attitude I would be giving. When I beat my case, when I walked out on my case, I dropped to my fucking knees. I didn't want to be around nobody. I'm happy as shit. I'm not celebrating blowing up in the law face because I know I was just fucking crying, begging God. Nobody was in there with me. I was begging him. So how I look like to get out here and act like some macho hero, like I wasn't just being a little bitch on my knees for my father to save me when nobody else would. So I don't know what P. Diddy getting out. But me, personally, you took 30 million from me, I would advise you to get. I would get out and tell you to leave.
According to Charlemagne, it's pretty clear Diddy will never let Cassie walk free. She's the only one who truly knows everything about him. And if she talks, it could destroy him completely.
He was doing stuff to please himself. And look, after talking to all the male escorts, I got a very clear idea that Cassie was with it.
Oh, listen, I say all the time.
Cassie was with it. She would pick out the guys. She would want to do stuff with the guys, even when the guys were over it. You know, she would run into the guys randomly and then call Diddy, said, oh, I saw so-and-so downstairs. Let's call him up. She didn't have to do that.
Diddy was Nino Brown. Cassie was G-Money.
Okay.
That's just a fact.
Right.
Like, Diddy was...
She was like, you know, Epstein and, what's her name? Giselle.
But what happened was, G-Money wanted out. G-Money got tired of, you know, the treatment that they were experiencing at the hands of Nino Brown. So they wanted out. I mean, we can't sit here and act like there wasn't, you know, text messages where she was, you know, explicitly saying like, look, man, you treat me like a rag doll. I'm somebody's child. Or, hey, this is not what I want to do right now. So, but to your point, yes.
And she could have left at that point. Right?
We saw her try to leave and we saw how that played out. He chased after her in a towel and pulled her to the ground and beat her.
Well, yeah, that was horrible, but that was one instance. The next day...
That's all it takes.
The next day you could have left and never came back.
It's easy to say that, but when you're experiencing that...
It is.
It's easy to say that, but when you're experiencing that kind of abuse at the hands of somebody, I can see why she would be afraid to just up and leave. And if you're thinking about it like this, if you're a person like her, you know where all the bodies are buried.
Right.
Diddy can't afford to just let her.
The truth is, this whole case looks totally different on paper than what really went down behind the scenes in court and everywhere else. Something about it just doesn't add up. Maybe it's his connections, or maybe he made a deal. But either way, Diddy walked out with way less time than anyone thought he would, and that's wild. Keep watching for more crazy stories like this only on Taylor Tells All.